Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use continuous lighting to work with still photography. Now, with continuous lighting, it's traditionally been used in video work and it works extremely well. But there's no reason why you can't use continuous lights in still photography as well as video. In fact, there's a couple of big advantages to using continuous over the more traditional flash-based units. Okay, first of all, about the lights. This is the Mikensu Super Softbox 3-light kit. It's a continuous lighting kit and it produces excellent daylight balanced images. But what are the advantages? The first one, and probably the big one, is what you see is what you get. In other words, what you see through the viewfinder is exactly what you record. Unlike flash units, when they can kind of be a little confusing sometimes. They can trip you up and not always give you the picture you're expecting. With these things, if you see it, you can photograph it. Now there's a couple of other advantages as well, maybe less obvious ones. For example, these things don't produce a burst of light. There's no flash. Now that means there's no sudden burst of light, so if you're photographing little children or animals, for example, they're not going to be startled by the sudden flash of light. Next is the power consumption. In this day and age, we're always looking to save power. Now, it seems hard to believe, but these things throw out a lot of light. But these things use the modern low-energy light bulbs, and they use a lot less light than a traditional flash unit. Okay, so that's some of the advantages of the continuous lighting system. Let's have a look at the camera settings. When it comes to setting up my camera, I'm normally trying to set the lowest ISO setting I can possibly get away with. Normally that gives you maximum quality. Now, when I'm using flash, that tends to be 100 ISO, but these continuous lights just aren't quite as bright as flash. So I tend to increase my ISO to 400 to get a decent fast shutter speed. To be honest, the difference between 400 and 100 isn't a major issue on modern digital SLR cameras. They can use high ISO settings really, really well. I'm also going to open up my aperture a little bit. Normally I try and work around about f8 with flash, but with continuous lighting I tend to open it up just one more stop, f5.6. If you really need f8, if you're doing a group shot or you need that depth of field, then choose f8, but maybe just increase your ISO up to 800. Well, that's the theory, but let's try putting that into practice. So what I'm going to show you now is a really simple lighting setup that you can do using the Mikensu 3-light Super Softbox kit. Okay, so we've got our model and we're ready to start taking some pictures. Now we've got 3 lights to play with the Super Softbox kit. So let's start with a single light and build the lighting up from there. So I'm going to start with the main light, or the key light as it's called. And it's going to be this one right here. Now this has the advantage of being on a boom arm, which is really, really useful. But I'm going to mount that so it's just above my model, just pointing down and above her head. So let's set that up. Here we go. Now the big advantage of this light is it's on a boom arm, so I can position the lighting stand out of the way so it's not going to be right in front of the model. And the boom arm can simply be used and rotated just as simply as that. Now you'll notice that the light is very, very close to the top of her head. Now it doesn't matter, that's fine as long as it doesn't get in shot. In fact, the closer you can get the light, the better. 2 useful things about that. First of all, it wraps the light around the model, gives a much more flattering light, but also it means that you get the maximum amount of light out of these bulbs onto the model, and that's going to give you the fastest shutter speed you can get, and therefore the sharpest pictures. Okay, well let's take a test picture and see how that looks. Okay, it's lovely, so if you can just look towards me, super. Okay, so that's giving quite a nice even illumination, but really only on the top half of her head. But when we get down to the chin and underneath onto the neck, you get quite a nasty shadow, which is something that we can try and avoid by adding in a second light. So this time I'm going to add in the small light. Okay, so this is the 45 centimeter square light, and I'm going to add that in underneath, right down onto the floor, and we're going to illuminate from underneath. So that's going to push light underneath her chin. It's going to give a more even lighting between top of her head and the underside of her face. Now I'm going to put that on to its full brightness, so all 3 bulbs turned on here. That's still not as bright as the lamp at the top, and because I'm going to put it down onto the floor as well, that's also going to make it a little bit dimmer still. So it's roughly half the power of the top light. In fact, it's often called beauty lighting. Let's take a picture and see if it works. Super. Okay, and yeah, straight away I can see that looks a lot better. A lot more even lighting. That's very nice indeed. But we've got one more light to play with the 3-light kit. It'd be a shame not to use it, wouldn't it? So let's add in a 3rd light. So this time the light's going to come in from behind. So I'm going to place it behind the model and just out of shot. I'm going to elevate it up in the air a wee bit. I'm going to angle it towards her back so we get a bit of light just touching the back of her hair and the back of the shoulders, just to try and lift those from the background. Okay, well let's take the picture and see how that looks. Okay, so again, if you can look at me, yeah, very nice, excellent. Super, yeah, now straight away we can see that looks better. We're getting some hair colour coming through. We're getting a little bit of definition to the shoulders. They're not blending into the black background anymore. So that looks really good. So 3 simple lights set up in a nice, easy way. 1 above, 1 below, and 1 just behind. And you can keep that setup and change the pose and get lots of different pictures. So let's move our model around a little bit. Let's get to do some work. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, if I pop these down on the floor, if you can just come in behind. Okay, and if you can just kneel on those for me. So now we've moved our model, she's a little bit lower down, and you've got to keep the lights in the same position, but move them closer. Remember, the further away the lights are from the model, the less brightness you're going to get onto the model and the lower your shutter speed is going to be. So let's bring that down like that. I'll just lower this one in. Fantastic. And that one, well, that can stay exactly where it is, that's fine. Okay, we'll just try that. Okay, that's good. That's nice. Just a little tilt the head for me. Lovely. And again, looking at the camera. That's good. Just look down towards the floor there for me. Eyes a little higher. Just a little back over here. There you go. And then back to me again. So there we are. You can take 4 or 5 different pictures using the same lighting setup. You can get consistent, beautiful lighting. And by using continuous lights, you can shoot as fast as you like. And remember, what you see is what you get. Now, for more information about the Mick & Sue Super Softbox Kit, remember to check out the SMIC website at www.smic.co.uk. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.